20 years. That's how long American troops have been in Afghanistan, the longest serving war in American history. Today, the Pentagon announced the final U.S. troops have left that country. Only a few hundred Americans were left behind, according to the Pentagon. They are choosing to stay in the country, now firmly in control of the Taliban. Over the last couple of weeks, America has been watching what unfolded there. Many people said there was no way in the world that President Joe Biden and his Pentagon could somehow get those folks out. Yet 125,000 people have been airlifted out of Afghanistan. President Biden made it clear they were going to meet the August 31st deadline to leave Afghanistan, and that is certainly the case. This is a statement that President Joe Biden released with regards to this. He said he wanted to thank our commanders and the men and women serving under them for their execution of the dangerous retrograde from Afghanistan as scheduled in the early morning hours of August 31st Kabul time, with no further loss of American lives. The past 17 days have seen our troops execute the largest airlift in U.S. history, evacuating over 120,000 U.S. citizens of our allies and Afghan allies of the United States. They have done it with unmatched courage, professionalism, and resolve. Now our 20-year military presence in Afghanistan has ended. Now, of course, when 12 U.S. troops were killed as a result of a bomb there, many people said that this was going to somehow end the Biden presidency. That was not the case. So now what we are seeing is what happens when this war is over. Speaking of that, this weekend, President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden were at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware to accompany the caskets that were returned that came back. First of all, folks, these were, again, the bodies that were returned to Dover Air Force Base there in, like I say, in Dover. Is one of the most solemn occasions for any president to have to witness the return of flag-draped coffins of American service members. It was, of course, shocking to a lot of people when this actually took place. When you saw, of course, that bomb go off, and early on, when the bomb went off, initially, there were no casualties, but as the day went on, we found out exactly what was the case. Marines and Navy personnel who died as a result of that. But now the war is over. 20 years. Now, what's interesting, you have your war hawks who continue to yell, holler, and scream for America to stay in Afghanistan. You have Donald Trump actually saying we should go back and invade the country again. I don't think for a second that America has the stomach to actually do that, because frankly, you've lost nearly 3,000 American lives, spent trillions of dollars. What do we have to actually show for it? Let's go to my panel right now, folks, to talk about this very issue, which has been one that a lot of people have been calling for a very long time. Dr. Julian Malveaux, Dean of the College of Ethnic Studies at California State University in L.A., Omekongo Dibinga, professorial lecturer, School of International Service, American University, Dr. Avis Jones-DeBeer, political analyst. Omekongo, I want to start with you. And we talk about, again, the longest war in American history, not the Korean War, not Vietnam, not World War I, World War II. It's a whole lot of bloodshed spilled, really, when the goal initially was simply to take out Osama bin Laden and the terrorists, but the Bush administration changed focus, and it was President Joe Biden who had the courage to stick with his guns and say, we're leaving on time.
You're right, and it did take a lot of courage. I know a lot of people are saddened by the events that happened there, and I was reading some of the bios of the soldiers who lost their lives. Many of them were 20 years old, meaning they were born the year this started. And so when people call this the forever war and they talk about the forever soldiers, that's a real issue. And so we are so saddened by the loss of those soldiers, as well as the many people in Afghanistan who were killed by that bombing as well. We also have to understand that even just because many U.S. soldiers didn't die, that people in Afghanistan were still being attacked by the Taliban and other forces. And so there was there's a lot of blame to go around. Of course, I don't recall ever seeing President Trump wait to greet any bodies that came back from anywhere, Niger or other places. Maybe he did, but I never saw it. Biden handled this with a lot of dignity, and I do believe that yes, some mistakes were made in how the evacuation took place. But like Jen Psaki has said multiple times, they never expected the president of Afghanistan to just flee so quickly, or the members of the Afghanistan army to fold so quickly. Maybe people should have foresaw that when Trump decided to negotiate with the Taliban. But at the end of the day, like Biden says, the buck stops with him. And I know his heart is heavy because we all know he's a man of compassion. But this war did indeed need to end. I wish it was under different circumstances, but the way Trump set it up, it was going to be a lose-lose either way. And unfortunately, this hard decision had to be made. And I hope that more is still going to be done to get other civs out and other people who have that special immigrant visas to get them out of there, because they did work hand in hand with us and they deserve to be out as well.
Celebratory gunfire erupting in Afghanistan once the word went out that U.S. forces were no longer in the country that they had left. That's what you're seeing right now, folks. And so the thing here is, look, if you look at the history of this country, the thing here, Julian, is that no other country has been able to defeat folks. I mean, they are warriors. I mean, look, you can sit here, you can call the Taliban, the Afghan force, whatever you want to call them. But the bottom line is the Russians were unable to conquer the country. The Brits were unable to do so. So the mission strayed from what the initial focus was, and it ended up being a 20-year occupation.
Well, you know, Baby Bush took this so personally. He said they tried to kill my daddy. And that was when we went off center. I remember, in fact, I remember because I got kicked off CNN for saying it. Colin Powell held up this little thing and said, this could be anthrax. And so I went on the air and said, yeah, it could be hair grease too. We had no evidence that it was anthrax. But Baby Bush wanted to, quote, avenge his daddy. And now $2 trillion, 3,000 lives later, what do we have to show for it? Well, there is more peace there than there was, certainly. Women have more rights than they did, certainly. But we are not sure that any of those changes are going to stick. I'm especially concerned about the women and the rights of women in Afghanistan, because we know that pre our invasion, which is what it was, women couldn't drive, couldn't go to school, really couldn't do anything. And women have been able to increase their rights in Afghanistan, but much of that, it seems, is going to go away. The bottom line is, I agree with Obakongo. President Biden did the right thing. It was time. It was 20 years. It was time for us to get the you-know-what up out of there. As you said, Roland, nobody could defeat these people. These people basically, like Russia couldn't with all their millions, all their people, all of that. Turkey couldn't. None of their neighbors could. And so we lost a lot of esteem, which is good. We seem to think we're the biggest and the baddest. The Taliban showed us really are we actually a flawed nation who cannot be running around the world because people do not agree with the way that we do business.
Avis, this is video that was shot by folks there of the last American plane leaving Afghanistan with United States troops. This again, it happened just a little while ago, and this war is over. And you have these war hawks, the individuals who, frankly, who are already talking about. You have Lindsey Graham who's saying, another 9/11 is going to happen because of what we've done, and we should have stayed in Afghanistan. And none of these people were shedding the blood of their sons and daughters. And again, all of these so-called deficit hawks, all of these so-called minders of American taxpayer dollars, the people who are greatly benefiting from the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq, defense companies, the military industrial complex. And so to me, it is right for Biden to stick to his guns, to say, no, we're not doing this. And here's the deal. Bush, he wouldn't do it, obviously. Obama wouldn't do it. You had 2 terms. Somebody had to say, no, we're leaving. We're leaving.
Absolutely. And, that's what leadership looks like. Leadership is making a stand, putting your stake in the sand, so to speak, and then sticking to your word and being someone who is not just influenced by the rabid public on the one hand, or very loud people like Lindsey Graham, who, excuse me, but I kind of missed the part where he ever served anywhere. I don't see.
No, he did. He did. He was a military JAG officer. So Lindsey wasn't in the military.
So that's one that did. But a lot of the people who are a lot of these sort of military hawks themselves have never done it. And as you mentioned, none of their children, none of the people in their families are the ones that put their lives on the line. The way that our military system is today, it's made up of disproportionately people who are working people, disproportionately people who are people of color, disproportionately people who are doing it, yes, because of a sense of duty and service, but also because it is a living for them. It is a career for them where they might not have very many opportunities in their neighborhoods. And so they're literally having to put their lives on the line in order to be able to make a living as well as to serve. And so it's very easy for a lot of people who know that it's not their blood that's going to be spilled, or it's not the blood of their immediate family that's going to be spilled, to always be criticizing decisions that extricate us from situations. It was never going to be easy to leave Afghanistan. That's why a lot of these previous presidents didn't do it. Even after, as you mentioned, even after Osama bin Laden was killed, we stayed, because leaving was always going to be messy. It was always going to be messy. This was not going to be an easy sort of pull out of that situation, and then things would go on as normal. It took bravery, it took courage, it took leadership to say, the buck stops with me. This is a horrible situation that just happened a couple of days ago, but I am going to stay firm to my word. I am going to lead. This is what leadership looks like. It's not fun. Sometimes it's messy, but this is exactly what this nation needs right now, or else we would be there potentially forever.
And that's the thing that is so ridiculous when we listen to these folks on the Congo, on Capitol Hill, yell, holler, and scream, "Oh, we need to stay." Your brothers and sisters are not going there. And again, what's the mission? Exactly what is it? I mean, at some point, we've got to be honest about this. And the reality is, you saw the drone strike that took place, where America announced that they had taken out ISIS leaders there in Afghanistan. This was a result of the strike. And so America still has that capacity. But to keep saying, and the whole deal was like, okay, well, how long? So what? That they want to have a Japan-type state in Afghanistan? We've been there since World War II. Is that what they're saying? That's crazy.
Yep. You're right. And Malcolm Nance talked about this when he was on your show a couple of weeks ago. He said so often the reason why the Soviet Union, then Russia, and before that the Brits, before that failed is because the work to really work and win the hearts and minds of the people was never really prioritized. The focus was on military force. And really, at the end of the day, another thing Nance said, well, we should have had people actually from America learning the language instead of using translators. And so really, and when you go into doing this type of work and you don't have a long-term plan, this is what's going to happen. And really, the problem, we never really asked the question of why all of these countries are going into Afghanistan. Afghanistan is sitting on over $1 trillion worth of natural resources. That's part of the reason the Brits were brought there. That's part of the reason why Russia went there. And people don't really want to talk about it, but that's part of the reason the United States was there as well. And so as long as the intentions are always economic and political, which is the reason why we go into any real conflict, it's not to liberate the people, we are going to always have issues when we don't understand that many of the people there may not want what we're selling and are going to continue to fight that. And until we understand that, there's always going to be issues when we go into countries like we did in Afghanistan. And I hope that's a lesson learned from this forever war. Well, former forever war that just ended today.
Well, and another lesson that has to be learned, Julian, is that it's amazing how we had no problem finding the money for Afghanistan. We had no problem continuing to fund this. I've seen some reports that say we spent $2-3 trillion. Others say we spent $20 trillion. It's always amazing when you talk about what we can find money to spend on and what we can't.
You know, Roland, that's the issue here. Is the lowest estimate that I've seen is $2 trillion. I've seen estimates as high as 15. You saw one that said 20. What we know is that it was a basic succumbus just taking up our money. What could we have done with this money? We're now fighting about an infrastructure bill that's $3.5 trillion. We could have fixed our infrastructure. We could have created millions of jobs. We could have upgraded our schools. We have bridges that are at the verge of collapse. We could have fixed those bridges. The list is endless when you talk about trillions of dollars. Who gained? Omokongo has such a good point. Bechtel, that Dick Cheney has connections to. Bechtel made a, load of money off this war. Other defense companies made a whole lot of money off this war. War is a profit-making machine for those people. Furthermore, when Avis talks about who fights in the war and who had to go to Afghanistan because they couldn't find a job in the United States, we're looking at people who now, when we look at the ways that medical technology has occurred, people who've lost all their limbs, all 4 of them, and they're still here. And then many of these people, Roland, are fighting for their simple benefits. First, they fought for our country in a misbegotten war, and now they have to fight for their benefits. We keep hearing these stories of these gentlemen who are killing themselves or killing their spouses because there's inadequate mental health care available through the military. And we can go down the list. And the fact is that this was a joke. It was a stupid joke. It was a Bush-inspired joke. And but ain't nobody laughing because it's not funny. It's a joke. And now we're dealing with the consequences, which most recently are the 13 people who were killed. One young woman, some of these people, 20, 21, 22 years old, they don't know why they're there. They're there because they, quote, want to serve our country. But a young woman holding a baby, rescuing a baby. And if you can't see that picture and not want to say to somebody, Bush, Obama, I don't even call that other man's name. What were you thinking? And then you have, of course, Joe Biden, who had the courage to just say, let's just put a period on this. Let's just stop it. I think he could have done it better. I think our withdrawal was extremely inelegant. But at the end of the day, we've got trillions of dollars, trillions, down the drain because of a misbegotten war.
We're seeing any withdrawal of coming out of war that was elegant. Bottom line is it was going to be messy. The former CIA officials, Richard Mudd was on CNN saying, look, he said, show me a better way. At the end of the day, this was going to be the case. And again, and this is the key, Avis, it was a whole lot of people who were saying, oh my God, there's no way in the world we're going to be able to get out for 50,000 people in 2 weeks. A total of 125,000 were evacuated.
Mm-hmm. That is historic. I don't think enough attention has been given to the fact of exactly how historic that is. The sheer volume of people that were transported out of Afghanistan in a matter of weeks is unprecedented. Are there people that were left behind? Perhaps there were. It looks like there were. But the number of people that were gotten out in this short amount of the time was nothing short of miraculous. And I think not enough credit is given in that direction for this administration. I completely agree with Dr. Malvo. It's a very kind way of saying this was an inelegant sort of exit. And I would have loved to have seen a longer runway, no pun intended, in terms of starting this process earlier to be able to get people out. But there were no easy answers here. I mean, there would have never been a period of time that would have been, I don't believe, adequate to be able to get this thing completely wrapped up honestly, potentially even without any loss of life, because we saw that as time went on there, that's when threats continued to escalate. So who knows, maybe if we would have started earlier, that terrorist attack would have happened earlier. It just would have never been, I believe, an easy exit under any circumstances. What they were able to do in that short window, to me, was absolutely incredible.
Folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Seek is a streaming platform for virtual events and virtual reality experiences featuring the biggest names in music, sports, and entertainment from around the globe. It, of course, is a Black-owned company founded by Mary Spio. Seek's mission is to enable content creators to directly generate revenue from a global audience on multiple devices, including VR headsets, smart TVs, gaming consoles, mobile and desktop devices. Whether you're a gamer, music or sports enthusiasts, Seek has something for everyone. All right, folks, and a couple of items that they have that you can actually purchase. That is their 360-degree headphones. Unbelievable sound and bass with these headphones. Great for gaming as well. Bluetooth enabled, and so you can definitely get these headsets in addition to their virtual reality headset as well, where you simply just pop your phone in right here, close it, watch your VR content right there watch it right there on Seek.com. You can watch 360-degree video as well. If you want to get either one of these, go to Seek.com. Use this promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21, and that will give you a discount. And remember, when you purchase these headphones or even the VR headset, a portion of the proceeds comes back to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, Black-owned company supporting another Black-owned company. Again, Seek.com.